Good morning. How are you all today? Well, today we're going to have a quick little lesson on the 10 Commandments. Have any of you ever heard of the 10 Commandments? Do you know anything about them? What are they? Well, the 10 Commandments are a set of rules. They are commands given to us by God. But where did we get them? Does anybody know? Well, I'm sure you all remember the story of Moses leading the Jews out of Egypt. Remember, he raised his arms and the Red Sea parted and they all crossed through and made it to safety. But then where did they go? Well, they kind of wandered around a little bit. They were a little bit lost and a little bit confused, and they didn't really know where they were going. So after they'd been sort of wandering around for 3 months, they camped at the base of this mountain. And it was called Mount Sinai. And Moses went up to the top of this mountain. And while he was there, he received these commands from God as to how the Jewish people should live. So I'm going to read to you from Exodus. And the wording might be a little funny. It might be unfamiliar to you. But then we'll go over sort of an easier version of the 10 Commandments so that you can help remember them, okay? So this is from Exodus 20, 1 through 17. And God spoke all these words. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the parents to the 3rd and 4th generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or your daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, but he rested on the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, nor his male or female servant, or his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. So those are the 10 Commandments. So Moses went up to the top of the mountain, and he got these rules from God, and he came down and he gave them to the Jewish people. And the Jewish people used them as a basis for all of their rules and beliefs, and they're still using them today, and we are still using them today. So let's talk about them in ways that might make them make a little more sense to you. The first commandment is put God first. He takes precedent over everything else. The second commandment is no fake gods, which goes along with put God first. Because when they say no fake gods, he does mean don't worship other gods, but he also means don't put video games first. Don't worship the idea of new shoes or, putting your friends before God. God is first and worship nothing else. So not money, not power, not prestige, only God. The third commandment is respect God's name. And Exodus says, you shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. So that means if you say the word God, you should be speaking to God or talking about him in a sense like this, but not just being ugly with it. The fourth commandment is respect God's day of rest. And Exodus says, remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. So for Jews, that's Saturday. Sabbath is the 7th day of the week, which is Saturday. But for us, we set aside Sunday as a day to keep it holy. And we go to church and we remember God. And we try not to work. And we just really make that a time about remembering God. The fifth commandment is respect your parents. Now from here, these commandments get pretty simple. The next one is don't kill people. Respect your marriage vows. Don't steal. Don't lie. And do not be jealous. The Bible actually says you shall not covet your neighbor's house. But to covet means to want something someone else has for yourself. So you can just remember that as don't be jealous. So let's talk a little bit more about the rules. I think it's interesting to see that you can kind of break them into 2 parts. So you can have the first 5 commandments, And those are really about God and honoring God. And the second set of 5 commandments are really for the good of mankind. So let's read them again, knowing that the first 5 will be about honoring God. Put God first. Have no gods before God. Respect God's name. Respect God's day of rest. And respect your parents. Now, wait a second. That's a little weird, right? Respect your parents is grouped in with the commandments about remembering God. But if we think of the first 5 commandments as honoring our Creator, then honoring the people that made us falls in line with honoring the Creator. It would be very hard to honor God if we couldn't even honor our parents. So those sort of all go together as honoring our Creator. The rest of the commandments are about how to live in the world as good people. So don't kill, obviously. Respect marriage. Don't steal. Don't lie. And don't be jealous. Now, why does it matter if we're jealous? I mean, if we don't steal, does it matter if we want to steal? Well, yes, because God is the God of our bodies and our hearts, right? So it's important to act the way He wants us to act, but also in our hearts to feel that way. Now, the 10 Commandments were given to us in the Old Testament, which was about 1,500 years before Jesus. But they were obviously still talking about the 10 Commandments all the way up through Jesus' time, just like we're still talking about them now. And there's a really interesting conversation that Jesus had about the 10 Commandments. He was asked, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" Now, he was asked this by people who were trying to trick him. But Jesus was pretty good at not being tricked. So here was his answer. Jesus replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself." So while I want you to remember these 10 commandments and I want you to learn them, all of these rules could be summed up as 2 things. Love your God with all of your heart and body and soul, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. And if you follow those 2 rules, you will also follow all of these rules because they all go together. So that's the end of our lesson for today. In the box below, there's a bunch of different worksheets and a couple of games you can print out, and you can play them and practice your commandments at home. So let's pray before we leave. Dear Lord, thank you for letting us continue to meet virtually like this, even when we can't meet in person. Thank you for giving us rules so that we know how to love you and follow you, even when the world can seem confusing. Please be with us until we can all meet again. Amen.